Section 10 of Music by Ursula Creighton. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Chapter 10, Purcell. While Italy had so many composers beginning to produce the kinds of music we are accustomed to now, England had none. It was the time of Puritan rule, and music, together with all other art, was regarded with suspicion. Nevertheless, the English people still loved music, and though in churches all music was stopped under the Commonwealth, there was plenty of music outside. Oliver Cromwell was himself very fond of music. He instituted the first public concerts, which were given in Whitehall, and he permitted the opening of the first English opera house. John Milton the poet was a musician, and John Bunyan, the author of The Pilgrim's Progress, was so fond of music that when he was imprisoned in Bedford jail, he made himself a flute out of the leg of a chair and was able to enjoy the music he made without his jailer ever discovering where his instrument was. But English music did not become famous again until after the return of the Royalists. Charles II had been brought up in France, and he liked Lully's light, melodious music and dancing rhythmic tunes. When he returned to England and started music in church again, he found the music used was the old polyphonic music, which had no marked rhythm, and such music he thought dull. So he sent one of the members of the Chapel Royal, Pelham Humphreys, to study the new kinds of music on the continent of Europe. Humphreys studied with Lully in Paris, and when he returned, he wrote many anthems and songs. He was made director of the Chapel Royal and deserves special notice because he was the teacher of the greatest musical genius England has ever possessed, Henry Purcell. Henry Purcell was born in 1658 in Westminster, in the year that Cromwell died, and he passed the whole of his short life, till 1695, in the service of Westminster Abbey. There he was a member of the Chapel Royal, and there he became organist when the famous Dr. Blow resigned in favor of his young pupil. There also he sang at the coronation of James II and played at the coronation of William and Mary. His children are buried in the Abbey cloisters, and he himself lies beneath the organ. At the time he lived, no other musician in the world had such genius or could write such original and imaginative music. He admired the Italian composers, the beautiful shape of their music, and the sense of style they showed in their writing, and he liked the dignity of their music. But not content with learning all he could from them, he added in his own compositions a warmth of feeling and expression unknown before. His songs are full of melody. Sometimes music of his time sounds as if the melodies had a family likeness, but this is never so in Purcell's music. Each one has character and expression of its own, and the harmonies with which he accompanied his melodies are vivid and varied. He wrote a great deal of operatic music. The most famous of his operas is Dido and Aeneas, which was written to music throughout. Purcell also wrote for violins and harpsichord combined. This music for a few solo instruments playing together we call chamber music. It has always had a great appeal for musicians, and some of the most perfect music ever written has been written in this style. In 1694, Queen Mary died, and her funeral took place in the Abbey in great state, the lords following in golden ermine, the commons in long black cloaks. Banners were carried in front of the purple and gold coffin, and the whole of the abbey was lighted with numbers of wax lights. Purcell wrote the music for the service, 2 anthems which were said to be rapturously fine, solemn, and heavenly in operation, and which drew tears from all. One of these anthems, "Thou knowest, Lord, the secrets of our hearts," has been sung at every choral funeral in Westminster Abbey and St. Paul's Cathedral ever since, and its music is considered so beautiful that when a later musician, Dr. Croft, set the burial service to music, He wrote none for those words because he felt it had been done perfectly by Purcell, and no one could do it so well again. Not many months after Queen Mary's funeral, Purcell himself died at his house in Dean's Yard, and the same anthems were sung over his grave. Purcell's music still lives. It is full of imagination and sensitive expression, full of melody, very personal and very sincere. No one has ever written quite as he did. He had no followers in his own country, and musicians of other countries had not his environment or his peculiar gifts. He combined the new style he had learned from Pelham Humphreys and the Italians with the old polyphonic style which he had heard in his youth. That is to say, he wrote sometimes in counterpoint, but he used instruments to accompany voices, playing distinct music of their own, and he had solos and all sorts of moving passages and rhythms which had never existed in the old style of music. To this he added his own sincere feeling and showed genius in expressing it. End of section 10 of Music by Ursula Creighton, read by Martha Weller, Champaign, Illinois, February 24th, 2024.